Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Vinyl Junkies. We'll be talking about quality standards in vinyl tonight with my guest, Billy Fields of the Warner Music Group and RunOut Groove. How are you, Billy?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing great. Sam, how are you? It's good to see you again.
I'm doing good, man. Sorry for the mix-ups at the beginning. This is our third do-over, but I think we have it this time.
Feels good.
Before we get into the before we get into the subject matter, we want to talk about how we've got some great prizes to give you during this, and take a look at that. Guys, share this video and go to runoutgroovevinyl.com in order to vote for the next title, and you could win what you see in that picture right there. The big thing there is the baby Huey. The baby Huey story. That record's long out of print. Record store day. You're going to be getting a copy of that. The Beau Brummels, Golden Smog, a t-shirt, and a cork mat. Just share and comment. As simple as that. And good luck. So, Billy.
I should say good luck. And also, hidden in that picture is a lovely anti-static brush as well.
I was wondering what that was about. Okay, so that's what it is, eh? Okay, yeah. Very nice.
Tool of the trade.
Gotcha. It is important too. Okay, so look, why don't we get to exactly how it is that we started, the idea of putting together this show, just the idea of quality standards. Earlier in the week, maybe just a couple of days ago, we already had this idea, Billy and I. We do our monthly show, but we had this idea of really just addressing the fact that there doesn't seem to, one record that you buy at the store sounds good, another one doesn't. You never really know what it is that you're buying, right? So what we did on our forum is we put up a poll and asked you guys to weigh in. I'll read the poll out to you and we'll discuss the results with Billy, who deals with this kind of thing all the time. So the poll goes like this: quality vinyl matters, how to get it done right. What aspects of vinyl matter most to you when you're buying your new records? What frustrates you the most? We want to know. And you guys told us. Okay. And what it is that I did is I put up a bunch of different aspects to see which ones you would vote on, and you guys were able to just basically, check off the ones that matter most. So out of all of the stuff that we mentioned, we, put in stuff like this mastering count to you, quiet wax, and so forth. The results were really telling because what got the most votes all fell into one certain category. Okay. What do you think? I mean, I guess you saw the results already, Billy, but what do you think? What do you think? Let's say before we started with this, what would you think the consumers are most concerned about when they go out and they buy a record? What do you think that they look for?
Yeah, I think that really at the end of the day, of all the tricks of the trade, whatever you're doing, whether it's we're going to make this version or that version, or we're going to tell you we remastered it or reissued it or whatever it might be, I think that fans and let's call them consumers, but I don't mean to say that in a disrespectful way, but let's just say that generally in that space, they want to put down their hard-earned money and take home a record that sounds great when they put it on the turntable. That's the essence of it. I actually think that in some respects, what the package is or how fancy it all is as a complete sort of product, if the record doesn't sound good, we've failed. So it's all about how does that record sound when you put it down on a turntable and play it. That's it.
Okay, so that's where it was, right? And of course, that was one of the things that we pointed to. We pointed to quiet wax. We asked, the question of whether it's worth buying the audiophile release versus a regular release, whether that matters to you, whether the download card matters to you. And the results were interesting. You're going to find the top of them, they all fit in exactly the same category. And the takeaways that we have from this is that number one, absolutely, was that mastering and sound quality of the record counts most.
Yeah.
You would think that maybe it would matter less or whatever, but no. You guys, when you buy a record, it seems like overwhelmingly the thing that matters to you most is making sure that that record sounds good. It almost doesn't matter what system you're using it on. Okay.
And you know something? Let me just jump in real quick on that point.
Yeah.
because one of the things that you mentioned in the poll too is about audiophile pressings.
Yes.
So you can go out there in the world and find pressings that are produced in specific ways. There's, one-step metal process that ostensibly gets you closer to the music. You're not doing the three-step process when you're doing your metal work for your mastering. And that makes it a much more expensive record, much more limited record. And there are arguments around,
Yes.
well, is that worth that money, right?
But
And,
that's the argument we're going to have. That's exactly the argument we're going to have here.
and the thing about that is, at the heart of it still is, was it mastered well? Does it sound good when you put it on? And you just said the words, whatever your system is.
It doesn't matter whether you play it on a Crosley or you play it on a $500,000 system. Doesn't matter at all. You're still enjoying the record the way that you are. Okay. And you know what, Billy? It's our third go around. Maybe it's the perfect time for me to tell the story. I'll talk about jazz, but I'll talk about jazz as a product. Okay, as a consumer. I spend a good amount of money on my jazz collection. I like jazz. It's not because I care about original pressings. I'm not so much that guy.
Right.
But I want my jazz to sound good. Okay, so one of the reasons that I do go out and buy all of these old records is because the old records from before the early 70s, before the oil crisis happened, were just pressed that much better. They were solid. They were a solid bet. That's why I like those records. But ultimately, I'm completely comfortable with buying a reissue, as long as the record sounds good. And when we get to the question of audiophile, I, as a consumer, understand the difference between audiophile and you got to spend money to make it mastered differently and so forth. So I understand that, and I am willing to pay that discrepancy if I make that choice. But
Right.
the thing is at base, I want a record that sounds good. Okay, so a couple of years ago, look, John Coltrane, I'm no different than many people in that the guy's just one of the biggest artists in my life. There's nothing that's more, there's he's one of the biggest, most important artists that I listen to. And I collect this collection extensively, like every part of the period of his music. Now, the Atlantic years are where it really starts getting interesting for me. Before that, the Prestige years, he's playing in other people's bands, he's playing in settings, they're kind of a whole bunch of sessions, paid sessions. Sure. But what happens during the Atlantic years is where it really starts getting exciting, because he leaves Miles Davis's band and they go off to Europe and have an enormously successful tour, and they're on fire. Those records are actually pressed right now. Okay, you can get that whole European tour, but basically John Coltrane went on that tour only to fulfill a contract, to basically do a favor to Miles Davis. Soon after that was done, he went off and started recording for Atlantic and unleashed a monster, Giant Steps, which shook the world of jazz forever. And that's a huge record for me too. And I went on, once I started getting into John Coltrane, I went on and I bought all of them. And this was during the CD era for me. So I bought all of these records on CD and became very familiar with Atlantic. Now, I loved these records so much, Billy, that when it is that I went back and bought vinyl again, I used to go out and look for the best possible pressings of these records because they matter that much. And jazz is a pretty particular kind of music, right? It gets quiet sometimes. Now,
absolutely.
One of my favorite records that I was looking the most forward to receiving was a mono copy of Ohm, because this box set comes out, right? Look at this, man. John Coltrane mono box set. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, right? Beautiful book inside. The jackets, everything looks great. So I'm chuffed. I'm there, well, this package is perfect. It's exactly what I want. Because I don't have to go starting to look for, bidding on records that everybody else wants when I don't care about having the original. On the other hand, I do care about mono, or prefer mono, because, not because I'm a music snob, but because it's very simple. The recording was made in 1959, let's say in the case of Giant Steps, but all of this Atlantic stuff was recorded during the early, late 50s to early mid 60s type of thing. It was mono technology. It was all mono. So in other words, that's what was mastered. That's the way it was supposed to sound. So it's from that perspective only that I like that. Not a purist or a snob perspective. When this box set came out, I flipped my lid because it's like, what, are you kidding? I don't have to go out and chase after a lot of these records. Now, I had already done that. I bought the $50 copy and the $100 copy of Giant Steps. I did all of that. But here, Rhino puts this out and makes it easy. It's all there. Whatever's missing, I'm not chasing anymore. It's all there. $209 plus tax.
Is that Canadian or US?
Canadian. Okay?
Let's check it.
I was fine with it. It's a big expenditure. It's a big expenditure on one artist and one, but it's all there. The complete mono recordings. I was thrilled, dude. Thrilled. This is a big deal to me. This is a big deal, right? Okay. I take out my favorite one. I know everyone will go to Giant Steps, but my favorite record from the Atlantic catalog is Olé. Okay, actually, let's see if I can pull it out. But Olé, and one of the things that I like most about it is that the title track is basically just a huge 21-minute song. And the ebbs and flows of a jazz song are really all in there. So you get into, like, you know, a bass solo, but it just really gets down, and you can hear that it's, upright. And you can hear that it's really, you can hear the acoustics of the room. And that's why you want it. That's what makes it powerful, right? But it's a pretty quiet record, Olé. So what I do is I take out the record. Nice slab, 180 gram. Here, let me pull it out. You'll see. It's a beautiful slab. 180 gram. Hey, anti-static sleeve. Really done right. Beautiful. You open the thing up. Now, again, the guy who buys this knows this stuff. It's a box set. Plum. Atlantic Plum labels. Jesus Christ. Everything is on. Everything. It's beautiful. I'm happy. Now.
There's a butt coming, isn't there?
You better fucking believe it.
Okay. I just checking. I was pretty sure there was a butt coming, so give it to
turn on the fucking thing. I drop the needle. The record starts quiet. That's the thing about Olé. It just starts, just bass, and then a little bit of fucking just hi-hat happening before. It takes time. It's a 21, 22-minute song.
Oh, you gotta warm up.
Drop the needle.
Yeah.
I just took home a box set that cost me $210. I haven't heard a motherfucking note from this box set yet.
Yeah.
I hear whoosh. Now I'm pissed off because I spent a fortune on this thing, and I know I've already been through the trouble of trying to return a record that sounds like shit. It's impossible because they'll say it's not my problem. So now I'm stuck with this gorgeous, meticulously packaged brick. It's a brick. I don't play it. I don't play the fucking thing.
It's not a brick. It's a doorstop. You put it to hold your door open.
It's beautiful, and people will come and say, oh, look at how nice his collection is. Look at that beautiful box set. Yeah, that's the point. It was supposed to be my pride and joy. But you know what I heard? I heard whooshing on 180-gram vinyl, and that 180-gram vinyl made no difference to the sound. The second I dropped the needle, you could have made it 100. It sounded bad.
So I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Obviously. So the first one is, was that unique to that record alone in the set?
No.
Or did you find that playing the other records that you got that the sound that you wanted out of those records?
No.
Because typically when we're putting together a project like this, and this is one of those things, like Rhino is part of the Warner Music Group. I work for the company.
Yes.
And sometimes for all of your best intent, you end up making a record that at the end of the day, you put it on your turntable in the office and it does not sound the way that you, just like you described just now, you envisioned this version of the record that you wanted to have happen when you put the needle down, and it did not meet your expectation. And that happens. And there's a couple things we do internally when that occurs. You know, you start to try and search through whether it's Reddit or Amazon reviews, or you jump to the online guys in the US and ask them if they're hearing anything about it. And then we
Well,
have a special customer service guy in Burbank. He goes by the name of Dr. Rhino. And when we find there are problems, then we actually replace that stuff and get it fixed and get it done right.
you know what I'd like to say, if I can, just for 1 second.
Oh,
Thank you
absolutely.
for all of saying all of this, but I'm curious as to you guys watching the show. How many of you guys knew about Dr. Rhino and the fact that you could do all of this? I'm asking because I didn't know, but I'm happy. I'm happy that you guys like. It's really cool to know that you guys look through the Reddit reviews and all the rest, that you're actually, you know, looking to see what you put out. But I didn't know about what you guys, what you were just describing now, Billy.
Well, I mean, we have inside the company, obviously we're a big Warner Music Group company, is very large. So we have a couple different levels of what customer service ends up being. So you have sort of that forward-facing customer service team that deals with, fans that are out around the world that bought something that, hey, this isn't right. Can we get this fixed?
Okay.
And we have one that's internal. So for our accounts that we sell to directly, hey, this happened. This is messed up. Can you help me out with this problem? So as an example of that would be, we ship a lot of records. Well, sometimes those records show up at a record store and the corner's crushed or it's warped or whatever the problem is, it is showing itself to be defective before it ever arrives at the store. So, we as a company say, like, we recognize you can't sell those. So we take those back and please let us get you out replacement units for records that you can actually then sell. But for the customer, it ends up being they'll contact the labels directly via email. Those emails will sometimes find their way into my inbox, and I'm trying to solve problems. A couple examples of that, even the Beau Brummels.
Yes.
We put out for Record Store Day.
Yes.
In pack out, humans make mistakes. So instead of having an LP1 and an LP2, they got two LP1s. So, I pull the promo unit off the shelf. I take that record out, put it into a blank jacket, ship it out to the customer to make sure that they have the full experience that they expected. That happens with records all across the labels. But it also gets down to when there is a problem with the manufacturer of a product where it is not to the standard that we want and that we expect, because we're trying to match your expectation.
You see, the thing is, Billy,
tough.
The thing is, Billy, that, I mean, listen, obviously I put it on for the Coltrane thing, because we're trying to tell a story here. But the
Absolutely.
thing is that I'm trying to point to very real, to me, for example, it puts me in a huge conundrum when it comes to Rhino, because Rhino carries a ton of catalog. Now, if you're going to release a Pantera box set, I'm not going to be that picky because it's going to get noisy real quick. But if you're going to release a jazz record, I'm not talking about audiophile here, but if you're going to do it, there needs to be a standard. There needs to be a standard, and the vinyl cannot sound noisy. And you're right. Now, if it was just one thing, no, sir. I went through the entire thing. It breaks my heart to play the thing. But if we move a little bit forward, okay, in terms of consumer behavior, now what it's done is it's planted a seed in my head where it's like, well, I've already made some decisions when it comes to certain labels, okay? Right. I mean, I won't buy 4 Men with Beards. I won't. It's just I've been burnt enough times, and it's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. Now, it's not that they're all bad, but they're so wildly inconsistent that it's just eventually you reach a point where I'm not dropping a dime on that anymore. I actually have a 4 Men with Beards copy of Dark Magus that sounded better than the original Japanese copy. I can't tell you why, but it can happen. Yeah. It can happen. And I listened to this a lot of times. But my experience has been that, you know what, okay, well, they got all of those 70s Miles reissues, and they have all of the Funkadelic catalog, such an important catalog. But I've been burned so many times by that label that it's just, forget it. I'm not taking a chance anymore. So if anything, I think that it's easier for me to just say, hey, can somebody please pick up the Funkadelic Westbound catalog and just do something good with it? Right. Because the world needs this, right?
Yeah, the other thing about this too, though, that we have to deal with on our side of things, that this shouldn't concern fans like yourself or anybody out in the world that's buying records, is that you know, we talk about standards. We talk about wanting to make our records to a specific level. And if it's below that, we're not satisfied. It needs to be above that level. And then based on how plants operate and how different plants operate, and it gets down to many things around certainly how you master before it ever gets to that plant. And in some cases, I mean, you bring up Four Men with Beards. Four Men with Beards is a reissue label. So
Yes.
they're relying on sort of what the owner of that rep is doing with those records before it ever gets to them. And if it happens to be lined up in a plant and they've got a bad batch of PVC and they're not paying attention to how those records come off the press, it's entirely possible that they could screw up an entire run of records because QC failed in that
Dude,
spot.
I'm following. You see, the thing is that for me, proof is in the pudding. All right, and I mean,
the consistency is all. It's all about consistency, right?
It is, and
right.
I mean, I think that's what it is that we're trying to reach at with this discussion. Because if it was just one thing, but it's not, and
Right.
I've had plenty of Rhino records that sound great, but you know what? One of my David Bowie parlophones, the Ziggy Stardust, didn't sound too good. You know, a picture disc, again, of course, with the caveat that it's a picture disc. A picture disc sounded horrible. The White Snake picture disc sounded horrible.
Yeah.
So why is it that some records do and some records don't? Coming from the same label, there has to be a standard that we need to be able to talk about. And what I'll do is, if I can, okay, and then I'll leave the floor to you, then there's something else that makes it a little bit more puzzling, okay? The Joni Mitchell reissues, I was really happy to receive those because,
right.
You know, I wasn't really into her at the beginning, but I've come around and learned exactly how good and important this music is. So I'm
really happy that you've come around.
Oh yeah, big time. Big time. So
Good.
Much so that I know I need to spend a lot more time. But I've got maybe 10 Joni records now, but
sure.
So this one comes in, right? Which is what's this one called? Yeah, Ladies of the Canyon. This blew me away, dude. It did, because I didn't know about this record. That's why I had to look at the name, right? And it's like,
right.
Well, okay, now I'm beginning to understand the whole Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young thing, and now I can understand how somebody who likes early Neil Young, which of course I do, would like this. Now that connection to Joni became that much stronger. You ask a lot of musicians, the connection is Jocko. For me, it's not Jocko. Really, it was there. But, dude, you can even hear the jack. I don't know if you hear that over the mic, but when you open it, the cover, okay, the jacket is so substantive, such a beautiful experience. It's like,
yeah,
fucking awesome, right? So I'm going through everything. Then, from exactly the same label, and exactly the same reissue series. 2016 same reissue series.
Sure.
I get fucking The Hiss of Summer Lawns.
Right.
Now, it's not to complain, but what it is that it just, you see, this is not the same jacket at all. This is much flimsier. As a matter of fact, that is a stout and tip-on, and the quality is right there, where this is kind of just direct-to-board. And what happens with direct-to-board is, I'm trying to put it in the camera where you can see it, but in the middle, they kind of warp because they don't fold properly. So basically, you're kind of getting bum records right from the beginning. That's not the way they were made, and it's just, I couldn't understand, and I don't understand. This is part of the same Joni Mitchell reissue series. They're put out at the same time, same remaster, same everything. One I would buy without a question and gives me everything, and the other one, it's like buying a Porsche without leather seats. It's like, what?
Well, I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit right now, so that you know why those jackets were produced the way they were. The Hissing of Summer Lawns, as you'll notice, has a D-Boss in the cover.
Yes.
The large snake that's being held by the figures on the cover is actually raised from the rest of the jacket. So the original jacket for that record is also made the same exact way. It is a very thin direct-to-board jacket with a D-Boss of the snake. So when you compare the jacket from that record to the original, it's the same jacket.
I don't have
So,
I don't have my the snake is not debossed on mine, dude.
embossed, debossed. It's raised.
No, dude, I know what it is, but it's
I mean,
just
it may not.
no, man. This is a standard. This is a standard jacket. This is really, it's a thin, cheap jacket. Which again, I'm not complaining about the fact that it's a thin, cheap jacket. I'm just trying to understand why it's the paper quality, the jacket quality is night and day. It's the same remaster series. It's the same everything. One is
Right.
good and one isn't. Why?
Yeah, but that
Why?
should have. Okay, well, I'm confused then because I am pretty certain that the copy that I have is.
Well, look, dude, I'm putting it
Do you mind if I
real
just
close.
leave camera for a second?
And he's gonna leave me. All right, now we're gonna give shits to somebody.
I will literally be right back. I just want to just check one thing because I
Sure.
want to make sure my memory's right. Hold on.
But you see, and the thing is actually, look, they sound great. Honestly, the remasters are good. So for Joni people, I didn't open this one because I already had a copy of Hajira. But you can just look before you even open it. It's like, okay, well, this is gonna be a Stoughton tip-on jacket. So I'll buy one and I won't buy the other.
Okay, so look,
Here we go.
I just want to show you this. This is the record you're talking about, right?
It is.
Okay, so while this is not opened, I can feel this raised. The figures and the snake are raised.
So what are you calling me, a
you're
liar?
telling me that your copy of this record doesn't have that?
Dude, I don't need to know how to read Braille to know that my cover's not embossed.
No, so I will tell you right now that I am fucking really confused why your record is not made like the record I have in my hand.
Well, let us not let the fact that we're having a good time doing this just take away from the fact that, you see, I'm talking to somebody who's actually involved with making these records and you don't know. How is a customer supposed to know? I deal with hundreds of records a year. Hundreds.
Now.
I don't know. And can I tell you, as a consumer, okay, can I tell you something that happened that immediately, I'm not the only guy. Again, I use it just as an example.
Right.
Something really mind-blowing came out this year. The Ornette Coleman Complete Atlantic Recordings.
Yes.
Came out in a box set. Dude, that's what I splurge on. That's the shit I wait for. Because again, you know, no Scorpio copy. It's just it's all there. It's all there. I want it. I didn't buy it. You know why? Because John Coltrane.
Because you're going to ask me to send you one.
No, I didn't even think about that. No. But
okay.
John Coltrane box set. That's why. Because it would be absolutely, it would be inexcusable. It's just, I got stuck with this. And you know why I'm stuck with it? Okay, I didn't even try to bring it back to the store. Because it comes down to another thing. Okay, I bought a King Buzzle record. Fucking Ipecac. I buy a King Buzzle record. Dude, this record, it's not, you know how it is that I was just saying a little noise on a jazz record? You know, it's an acoustic record, but still a pretty noisy record. Jesus Christ, I thought the fucking train was about to start. It's like, seriously, it's like a fucking rotor happening, like noisy.
Right.
I try to bring this thing back to the record store. Well, no, you know, we can't do anything about this record. I mean, it's not us. It's not us that do it.
Right.
Okay, well, you know, your distributor, somebody. I mean, this is damaged goods. I can't play it.
Right.
We can't do anything. We're going to get stuck with it then. So the thing is that I understand. The shop can't do it because they're going to get stuck with the record. Right? Independent store, you get that. So now you go down further down the chain, and this is a real life story. Further down the chain. Okay, the distributor. No, well, the distributor doesn't do anything because the distributor is a drop-off point, right? Okay, go to the label. Where did you get this record?
Right.
Now I'm feeling like, what is this? The FBI? The record doesn't sound good. I don't want to throw the guy under the bus.
Right.
He bought the record, so they're asking for the name.
Right.
I record 15, 20 minutes of the record. They can hear it on an MP3 on a phone.
Right. Right.
You have to be fucking like deaf. You have to be Marty Matlin not to hear what's going on there.
Right.
So she doesn't want to. She wants to know where I bought this record from.
Right.
Eventually, I tell her, Hems and Haws. Still, I'm not asking for my money back, dude. I just want a record that sounds good. Nothing else. That's all I want.
You just want one to fill in the void, right? Yeah.
I just want a record that sounds good. So I pulled a card that I've never pulled before, but I was fucking pissed off. Listen, I'm the founder of Vinyl Junkies. Every message that I put out goes out to 50,000 people. I want a fucking clean record. Send me my record. Oh, I get an email back. Oh, you know, you don't have to use that. The fact that you're from Vinyl Junkies doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it didn't make a difference until I fucking called it out.
So did you get a record?
I got a record. I got a record under protest. I spent
does it sound better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's perfectly fine. And the problem, but why, as a consumer, why do I have to go through all of this? Why does the store need to get fucked? Somebody's getting fucked, and the people that are getting fucked are not right, because it's either the consumer or the independent store that's trying to sell your records. And the answer is, Billy, that those records shouldn't be coming out the factory to begin with. They are faulty. They don't belong. This John Coltrane set, I shouldn't have it. It should have never made it off the floor. Okay, and that's the example of the John Coltrane is not that bad. The example of another one is so blatant. I get some reggae records, dude. They're like the warp is the warp is amazing. The warp is like, make a fucking merry-go-round out of that. You're gonna throw up after 2 minutes. It's just zzz. So, like, how are you selling this? Why is this happening in the music industry, Billy?
Right. Man, I mean, you raise a lot of interesting and tough questions, frankly. You know, I think that most of what we do and most of what the labels and distributors do when they make records,
yes,
you're using a very wide variety of plants, a very wide variety of sort of chains of production. So whether or not in my case, I am in the US, so we have US production teams that use plants and mastering houses that we're comfortable with. If you leave the States, there are other scenarios. We've absolutely stopped using plants around the world if they're consistently giving us a product that just isn't good enough.
Okay.
But even when that happens, we will make a great record, and it will literally be a great record. And for whatever reason, this number of records that came off the press were not up to standard, and they squeezed by QC.
See the thing. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's I feel the frustration of this because I buy a lot of records myself, and I have the same issues happen for me. And because I know the difficulty of it, of the entire process from the very beginning to when it finally gets into a bin, I don't feel as frustrated as you do or as some fans do, simply because I know what goes into it. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the best record you can every single time you make it,
Billy.
And sometimes you fail.
And you know what? And the thing is look, I think you also know that I'm saying all of this. The outrage is real, it is. But the thing is, it's still in the spirit of conversation. You know, there's no attack here because ultimately we all want the same thing. We want great records. But no, you see, the thing is,
I have these same conversations with record stores all the time.
You know what? Go buy a car. Go buy a car, all right? Go buy a car and go get something that the air conditioning doesn't work. Or there's a fucking knock on the radiator. Brand new car.
Right.
It's all over the news.
Yeah.
It's okay, and you can say, oh, it's safety. No, the thing is that you're still selling something. Now, when you're thinking about the customer, you see, that's where it is that I feel that we're being taken advantage of. Now, it should be said that with the new presses coming in, you know, there's a lot of relief coming to the bottleneck. So I'm hoping that the standards will change, and we'll talk about the necessity of establishing standards. But I can say that during the beginning of the quote-unquote vinyl revival, you can kind of excuse almost stuff like Scorpio pressings and that kind of thing, right? Because it's the beginning, you're not going to spend money and resources, but now, this isn't a fad, man. People are spending a lot of money on this stuff, and the records are getting expensive, okay? There's no space for records that are warped coming straight out of the shrink wrap, and there is absolutely no space for a record that sounds noisy. There's no space for it.
Sure.
And it happens all the time, dude.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. You know, and
let me ask you this question, though, Sam.
Yeah.
You're absolutely valid fucking points. I mean, top to bottom, no argument there. But
okay.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So I would say 3 months ago, because here's what happens for me. I work in New York. I have stores receive records that are defective inbound. They get crushed. I don't like to see them just go into the trash. So I have them shipped to my office in New York, and then I just pass them out to people because obviously the records are good. The jackets are kind of crunched a bit. But on occasion, we will get samples of things that stores have said, hey, my customers have brought these back to me and said these are defective. Would you take a look at these? Would you please review them? This happens occasionally. There's a process that happens for online for Amazon where they'll actually get complaints from their customers. We'll take samples out of the warehouse.
I see, okay.
They come to me, I put them on a turntable, I play them all the way through, multiple copies, pulled from random boxes. Like, we're really serious about it. But I'll get these in and I'll put them on the turntable and they will play perfectly fine, beautifully. I don't have a high-end system. At the office, I've got a great workhorse of an Orbit Plus by
sure.
Audio.
Sure, I know those turntables.
Fancy, $1,000 rig. But it's a solid, great table.
Absolutely good table.
And literally, in the time that I've been doing this, actual defective copies of records that I've had my hands on and I put on a turntable, 6 titles in 10 years. So I don't know how bad it gets. I know that our desire and intent is to make great records for you guys. And by God, if I get pulled into some sort of chain where it's obvious that something went wrong, we're gonna fix it. Sometimes it might take a while, by the way, because that sometimes means you got to go back on press and you got to make sure those records are made well and you got to do all that work again. But shit, I'm not happy anytime someone says, "Oh man, I got one of your records," and
yep.
it fucking sounds like shit.
But Billy, look,
it's horrible.
The thing is that that's just you, and that's just your example, right? So that's, for example, is the Warner Music Group. Now, the Warner Music Group isn't the only player. Then there's the independents. Then there's Sony. It's just, so what are you telling me? We have to go through this, and you know that everyone's got their set of excuses because bad things don't just happen. On the other hand, you know what? I kind of took the Melvins example, the King Buzzo record example, just to the furthest conclusion. I said, okay, she wants to know where I bought this record because if she knows where I bought this record, then she can track the distributor and she can maybe track which batch of records it was so she can see where the problem is. Okay? I figure, listen, do a little bit of detective work, see what the, kind of give the benefit of the doubt. But that falls apart there too, because if you go all the way back and you set, that means that you knew that those records were bad to begin with, and you still let them out the door.
Right. Well, I mean,
at $29.99 to the customer. Come on.
Yeah, you can't track a record like that. I mean, you can't.
Well, the only reason
is the battle days where you numbered every stamper set so that you knew what records came off at what time. I mean, I'm sorry, but that isn't something you can actually do anymore.
Well,
The one thing you can do is when you have a complaint about a record, and this, the Coltrane thing has really made my wheels are turning in the background here, but it makes me think I need to go back and look at some various copies of that set to find out if everything that came through there has this problem, or if in fact what happened is there is a specific set of time that those records that came off, there was a problem.
okay.
But knowing exactly when a record was pressed and where it went and who sold it to what store, that is not something anybody can do.
Okay, so why am I being asked? I'm being asked to be I'm being asked to be a dick to the guy that I'm trying to support.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I think it might be, I don't know.
And
I couldn't fathom a guess, to be quite honest. I mean, other than just trying to figure out, like, did you actually buy this, or are you just being an asshole?
Oh, no. I bought the record, man. I bought the record.
But I mean, come on, you would never be an asshole, Sam. So that
Brother,
can't be.
No, of course not. I'm incapable. No, man, look, we got some friends coming over for barbecue. They're closer to the record store than me. He's coming over with $175 worth of records. If you think we stop buying records, you're out of your mind. It never stops, and it's not a disease, because we do listen to them. And what makes records,
I had to say that.
It's just disease. Because having them there, you can access those records all the time. You have an archive. That archive matters, man. So yeah, we do go out. I have a Sunday show. Okay, our Sunday show is going to be the metal show with Kim.
Right,
dude. I went out and I bought $175 worth of metal, because the stuff that I got was light, because I want to be able to do that. Not because, for no other reason that you love the music enough, and you almost need any reason to go out and support it. You have people like me, and I think that I represent just everybody who buys records. The average guy who buys vinyl spends a lot of money on records, a lot of money, like in the thousands. This is don't do like they did with the CD era. Don't kill that market, because one thing that I noticed that frustrated me immediately was, Jesus Christ, notice what happened with the soundtrack? The soundtracks, I mean, the prices went completely through the roof, and then all of a sudden you start getting into the collector's thing, and now I'm more comfortable with it type of thing, because as it turns out, a lot of that stuff is kind of like made to a higher standard. And we always come back to the same thing, Billy. Every company has their excuse. There needs to be a standard, okay? Almost like a coding system. And I don't see why we can't do it. Maybe it's because we've just reached a critical point in where the vinyl, where the vinyl market is, where we're beginning to really see, hey, man, the customers need to know what they're buying. Can I tell you a story about pizza in Italy?
I think that was just a left turn that you took, but I'd love to hear about your Italian pizza story.
Okay. The pizza was invented in Naples. All right? Now.
Okay.
You go to New York, you talk about the New York slice. That's not pizza. You go to Chicago, you talk about the deep dish. That's a stew. That's not pizza. A pizza, go to Italy. Thin little fucking pizza that you put in the oven. Sauce. Cheese. It's called a margherita. That's the original Neapolitan pizza. Now, the thing is that the best pizza in the world that I've tried, at least, was in Naples. They have a system there where there's an association that puts just kind of like the De Boer stamp type of thing, right? Where it's kind of like it tells you that all stores or all restaurants that make the proper pizza under the right conditions so that you get an authentic Italian pizza have this sign. And this sign is a mark of quality. Immediately, that's the pizza that I want. Now, that's happening in Naples just for pizza. I'm thinking that we need it in vinyl too. On top of that, we look at people who we work alongside, like Discogs. They have the database there.
Sure.
What is it that stops us from taking all of this, Billy, and just making sure that the pieces are actually working together and that the dots are connecting? Because in the end, the customer is the one who wins, and the customer is not the one who winds up getting stuck with a $25 record that he'll still play or she'll still play, but it's a bummer. It doesn't sound right.
Right.
You know, actually,
Hey, look, I think that I think having a level of QC steps that have to happen. I think that reviewing how plants operate and saying like this plant is operating to the level that it needs to be to make great records. I think all those things are absolutely needed at this point in the lifespan of what the format's become. You have no argument from me on that. I think it's absolutely something we have to come together and figure out.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to the folks at Making Vinyl this afternoon, and we were talking about exactly that, this type of a standard. And I know that that's a board that I would want to be on because I don't think that records should go out. And the thing is that this comes out of nowhere. And I just thought of two examples right off to mind, right? Examples from places that you would never think, okay? Max Richter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you know his Sleep project? It's an over 6 hour, an over 6 hour project. Really a beautiful, sublime piece of music, right? That was originally just played in what's it called, a museum, I believe. Anyway, and kind of like as an installment. Is that what they call them?
It was played in a museum.
Or, no, where was it played? Wasn't it? It was set up as an installment, is what it is that I'm trying to.
It was an installation, a sound installation. Yes, that was. It was actually the Sleep piece, and it was played, I believe it's like an 8 hour piece, right?
8 hour piece or 6 hours, yeah.
Plays overnight and you essentially sleep in the space where the music is being performed.
Right. So you just told me a bunch of stuff right there. It makes the record even better. The thing is that it falls into that Eno, really calm, atmospheric, ambient music that I absolutely love. So what they did was Deutsche Grammophon puts out a double LP of this Max Richter project, but they'd condense it down to just two LP, so 4 sides.
So about an hour and a half. You know, have you looked at the alignment on your turntable lately?
Dude, it's not just one. I've tried it. I've tried it
with every record you play, Sam.
No,
Maybe
sir.
You need to check your alignment on your cartridge.
No, sir. No, sir, because I've tried it. I've tried it on more than one turntable.
Okay.
And like I have 2 turntables side to side, and usually I have 3 turntables side to side. A pair of 1200s and then a kind of like audiophile deck. Right now I don't have an audiophile deck. I'm looking to get one. So I always make sure that I try it on a variety of different systems. It can't
really happy to hear that.
Okay. And on top of that, you know what? We will be doing a show on cartridge alignment, and this is one of the tools that I use.
Of course you are. Of course you're going to do a show on cartridge alignment.
One of the things that I use is the MoFi Geodisc, which is used in order to make sure that your cartridge is properly aligned. And I have a little scale to make sure that, like, and I'm actually, I just bought a professional protractor. Dude, it's fucking crazy. A professional protractor to set up, you know, professionally the...
Oh, of course. That scale is a downforce gauge, by the way.
It's Fikert. Do you know Fikert? $300 scale. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know brands. I just know downforce gauge tells you how much your cartridge weighs at the tip of the stylus.
It's really, and the thing is, it's a tool, and I do this often enough, and I change enough, but. It's not the cartridge. What I'm saying is it's definitely not the tracking.
No, I understand. You've proven your point that you've multiple tables, you check your alignment, it's not your machine.
It's the motherfucking record. It is, man, and it's not just one side.
Maybe it's a magnet for bad pressings. Maybe that's what it is.
I
mean, if you buy them all, that means that everyone else gets good records. So you're really performing a service, Sam.
No, what it is that I'm doing is I'm listening to a lot more records than what I just buy, right? Because I do what I do, we receive a lot of records. So
sure.
I come across, but I don't know where the records were pressed. I don't know that stuff. I mean, I know a Stoughton jacket. I know that kind of, but in terms of that, it's become clear to me that now I got to start paying better attention to where the records are pressed, because there's some pressing plants that if the records come from there, I don't want them. I don't want them. I don't want to buy them. Okay.
Yeah, I've had conversations with various labels over the years just about bad experiences that they've had to actually stop making records in one plant and move them to somewhere else because they just can't get the sort of the consistency of QC that they need. I'm gonna tell you a quick story about the Gary Loris record actually that we just put into production. It won the voting last month. RunOut Groove. We're making 1,298 numbered copies for the folks out there that are fans. When that record was originally pressed back in 2007 or 8, I can't remember the year exactly. I think it's 7, but I'm guessing a bit.
Okay.
Might be 8. Anyway, we pressed that record at the time at United. Now, United was under different ownership than it is now. The completely different operating structure, completely different crew, not the same place it is today. So I'm not making any claims about quality for United today. I'm talking about a decade ago. But we sent that record out. We wanted to make a 180-gram record. I was actually working at Ryko Disc at the time, so I was sort of at the beginning part of making that original record.
Oh, nice.
So the original United made that record for us, but they made that record as a 180-gram record that they pressed using 140-gram dies. So the die is what goes onto the presses that helps you form your record correctly. And a 140-gram die is obviously smaller or contains less space than a 180-gram die.
Okay.
So you can imagine if you're trying to make a 180-gram record using a 140-gram die, you're not going to have a great sounding record. So that original Ryko Disc record, now by the way, I found this out well after the fact. This is not something that they made you aware of at the time, right? Small label, independent artists. That record sounds okay. That's one of the reasons why we're so happy about making this reissue of it, because it's going to sound better than it's ever sounded.
Well, you see,
we end up getting to make it right. But then you find out how this stuff happens, and like we didn't control that. That's not something that the plant told us. That's not something that QC at the plant would tell you. It was, hey, I'm the plant. I got to make money. I'm just going to do this. And again, I just want to disclaim, like, this was a bunch of different people, not the same people that are running the plant now. But that was super disappointing once you get the record and you put it on and fuck, it's a beautiful record and it doesn't sound good.
What it is that I'm saying is that when I do a show like this, okay, again, I'm always talking about as a fan.
Right.
I paid for the vast majority of my collection, okay, and I still buy a ton of records. So I feel that we have to give people the proper story. So if I'm coming across these records, you know what? Now it's kind of become my responsibility to find out why the record sounds the way it does. Another here, you know, another mystery. Here's another one, right? You know how we associate quality with certain labels, right? So in other words, RunOut Groove certainly fits that category. I know that if I get a RunOut Groove record, it's 180-gram vinyl, it's well cut, okay, even right down to just the edges. They're nice and smooth. It's a well-made vinyl record. It's gonna sound right. It's a stout and tip-on sleeve. It's got everything. It's got the entire thing. I know what I'm buying. Okay,
right.
Light in the Attic has always been exactly that. I know what I'm buying. They use Stoughton as well, and the records just sound right, and they go through a process before they put those records out, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I think that we need to see that. I think that we need to see these types of things, and what it is that I've told, for example, Stoughton, and you know what me and Billy are working on with RunOut Groove records is, guys, you know what? You know, like when you buy a car, I think it's Lexus, right, that has the premium stereo in the car. Mark Levinson. They call it a Mark Levinson stereo. Now, this Mark Levinson, you talk about Mark Levinson to anybody. Who the fuck is Mark Levinson? Nobody knows. But if you talk to the right kind of snob, or if you buy, it's just, and they buy a Mark Levinson car stereos, it's got to be, what is it, in Porsche, Lexus, one of those things. It's a reason to sell you a $5,000 stereo is what it is, right? But if they're going to sell you a $5,000 stereo, at least they're going to put a nice spit shine on it, and they're going to make it look good. And gosh darn it, the logo looks beautiful. So you spend
and you know something else? They'll
Yeah.
give you that car with a full tank of gas.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? Mark Levinson is a branch of Harman Kardon. But what it is that I'm saying is, you trust certain brands, whatever they are. You trust certain brands.
Sure.
In terms of luxury brands, you know, Silver Star stands for a certain standard. Whether you believe in, you know, Stoughton, it's a standard. You know what?
Yes.
I can tell you that for me, after looking at all of those, if I had to make a choice between, I've always contended that I'm willing to pay $5 to $7 more for the premium version. So in other words, one of the questions that we had in our poll was, you know, do you want the cheapest version, or, you know, $5 to $7 is what I'm willing to pay for more. But you know what? If I'm going to pay more, I don't want to get stuck in a Joni Mitchell situation where one jacket is garbage.
We would identify that as a mystery. I'm going to get back to you on.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, but no, dude, but come on, man. You know how I'm trying to say this.
I'm following you completely. I hear exactly what you're saying. I agree.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Now you just completely shut me down. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings with this, Billy. You're brave.
Okay. Well, sometimes I'm sensitive. I mean, you know, I try to, you know, give you all the right answers, and sometimes I fail. I feel bad.
Nah, dude. If anything, you know what? I appreciate the fact that you partake in a conversation like this, because we're just trying to
solve problems, man.
We're trying to solve problems.
Right.
You know.
And you know, the point about the Stoughton jackets, you know, and I think that I want to reference a conversation you and I had a couple days ago about that. Is that there's a way in which I think that they can begin letting people know what they're making, because the thing is that it's not simply the tip-on jackets that they make extremely well. In fact, best in class, essentially.
Yeah, I agree.
But even when they make you a direct-to-board jacket, the work and the quality that they put into those jackets is different than some other houses that make jackets.
Yes,
now, it's funny how, you know, if you get into conversations with various print vendors, they might say something like, "Oh, they got a magic machine at Stoughton," or something. I've had certain pressing plants say that to me about other pressing plants that are known for quality, like, "Oh, they got the magic machines." And the thing is that it's not so much that the machines are magic, or that that someone is attempting to make something that is less good. It's that there's a mindset of a certain group of people in production.
There's a standard
that they believe that they can't let anything leave their door that isn't to the standard that they have already established.
So
and I think that, to your point about setting standards, I think that we have ample example in the market now of labels that behave this way, of printing houses that behave this way, and pressing plants that behave this way, where you could say, here's a set of checks on a to-do list that if you do these things, you're at that level, and then you can get this stamp of approval.
And as a consumer, I would like...
It protects you.
I would like very much to have that stamp that tells me, you know what, it's passed through these standards. As a matter of fact, it's, as I've mentioned, considering that we speak to as many people as we do, I would want to be part of that board to make sure that it's like, yeah, we're not seeing this anymore. And I think that that's fair. And I think we're all headed that way. It's just this, you know, this we can't call it a revival anymore, but it's just, I think it's grown to a point where now we need it, you know, and maybe it wasn't the case before.
Yeah. You're definitely right about the fact that it's not a revival. It's not a resurgence at this point. It's that this is a vital component of the overall music business. It is a key piece of how people enjoy music, and thank goodness everyone has taken the time to let it be what it can be and grow it. And we are absolutely at the point where it's important to double down on the things that make it great for fans, which to your point, Sam, is you're excited, you love what it looks like, you put it on the turntable, it has to sound great every time. And every time it doesn't, it takes away a little bit of what it is we've been building for so long.
It hurts. It
yeah,
just.
yeah. I'm with you.
I can't listen to my Max Richter record. I
put things on my turntable that we've produced, and I think, like, I gotta pick up the phone, like, what the fuck happened here? What is going on?
I'm bummed. I'm bummed. I want the fucking thing. It's not a question of complaining. I want the music. It makes me happy when those records come in.
Who wants to be disappointed? Come on.
You know, and some labels do it right. You got a Third Man Records, dude, man. Those records, those new pressing plants that they have, brother, have you handled those new records lately?
I gotta tell you, I got a hold of one of those Sleep records, and that thing sounds fantastic. It's super quiet, and it's a split color. So sometimes, occasionally, what will happen with the split colors is you'll get a small audible click when it goes through the color field.
Happens a lot.
No, man, that record sounds fantastic. Sounds fantastic.
Well, actually, I have both copies. You're talking about the original one that was sold only at independent stores, which is the big collector thing. There's also there's also the other one.
By the way, I should mention to you that you need to know about, if you're not already into this, is Jazz Dispensary and recordings. They're both through I think the Concord Music Group.
Yes.
But Dispensary is doing reissues of great funk, jazz, soul jazz records. I know. Holy shit, they sound and look fantastic. They're doing such great work.
Jazz Dispensary definitely does it well.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Hey, man, look, I want to thank you for doing this. This was really a fun conversation, as I knew it would.
Hey, do we solve anything, Sam? Do we fix anything?
Yeah, I think what we did is open to the discussion, and hopefully it led to some great comments. And I think that, look, man, the industry takes part in these types of conversations, and if 500,000 people a month are watching Vinyl Junkies, then maybe you should be paying attention, because these are the people that buy the records, you know. So what we're doing is just trying to engage in a conversation and putting the attention at the right place. So yeah, I think so, you know, and I want to thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah, sure. It's always fun to be dragged through the town square and put in a
I did not do that. I did not do that.
I feel horrible, Sam. It's like my whole job is worthless.
Well, what I did actually is, so that we can close, folks, share this. If you have any comments and everything, we're going to pick a winner for the RunOut Groove prize pack that you're seeing right there.
Crazy prize pack, man. Come on. It's fantastic.
Golden Smog, 2 LP. Beau Brummels, which we spoke about, 2 LP. If you like the birds, you're going to like this. Stoughton jacket, again, that RunOut Groove quality. Okay. Beau Brummels.
Beautiful stuff, man.
The bell of the ball is that marvelous Baby Huey story, which is a double LP, extra tracks, Stoughton jacket, sold out long ago. It's phenomenal. So whoever gets this prize is getting that. Plus, they're getting 2 things that I don't have, which is a cork mat, which I don't need. It's okay. And that sweet RunOut Groove shirt, which I don't have. You notice Discogs sent me a shirt, XXL, comfortable, soft. I feel cradled. I feel cradled by Discogs, Billy.
I want to send you a medium shirt so that it rides really high on you. That's what I want to see you wear.
See, that's the thing.
I'll get you an XXL of a RunOut Groove shirt just to make you happy, because our shirts are soft too. And don't forget the vital tool in that prize pack, anti-static brush. Yeah. Super important.
Super important, but everybody makes the same anti-static brush and just puts their logo on it. Come on, let's not lie to the people. It's
the good anti-static brush that we put our logo on.
There is a difference. That's true.
It is a very nice one. It does its job. And look, I would be remiss if I did not say, please go visit runoutgroovevinyl.com. Please check out what we're up to. Vote on the records we make. We want you to tell us what to make next.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm not getting off is because it's still fun, but we're gonna when
Wait,
we.
if it wasn't fun, you'd be like, gotta go.
I've been thinking a lot. I need to do karaoke with the right people. Do you do karaoke?
No, I can't carry a tune if my life depended on it.
That's the point.
Oh, then no, I don't.
I need a Sunny. All right, Billy. This was fun, man. I need a Sunny. I need a Sunny.
Okay, well, I don't know what that means, but I hope that you get it.
Sunny and Cher, dude. Come on. Come on.
Oh, that's sweet.
Come on, dude. You're not very hip. You're not very hip.
Despite, no, I'm not at all.
Despite that mustache, you're the best, buddy. I love you. Thanks for doing it.
Hey, I love you too, buddy. Good to see you.
See you guys. Thanks for sticking around.
Be good.
Ooh, I pressed the wrong place to try to stop this, so we're still going. Say something smart. Ta-da-ta-ta-ta-ta.
Peace.